Is the Bitcoin correction over, and how do we know where Bitcoin's going next? Let's find out. Welcome to the Crypto Simulation. I am the Gaussian Snake, and this is my channel. I have a free Telegram group available for you called the Snake Pit, where we do daily market updates, chart analysis, and many other things. Link is in the video description below. Let's get started. So if you look at this chart, this is Bitcoin on the 2-week, which is really my favorite time frame to analyze Bitcoin on, although I do look at all kinds of time frames. I have a red zone drawn from $45,000 to $50,000, which I do believe will be Bitcoin's final destination in this correction, but I do not believe is over just yet. Now, of note is that we did break through the green Gunnar EMA band and came down to the red one, which was sitting like just around 53K. We knew that this could be an area of support, which it did turn out to be. This is still a red candle though, a third such red candle. Now, I do think that there's a strong possibility that we see a reversal heading into the next few weeks, and we could see when this candle finally closes, we could see maybe some green pop up, but I don't think this is it. I think that the correction is going to go on for longer, but that's just my intuition. I should back up what I'm saying, of course, with some data, so that's what we're going to do in this video, and also discuss the implications of a future correction that could take Bitcoin price as low as the 45 to 50K red zone, which is a very prominent area of historical support. So let's discuss why I think this is the case. Before we go there, though, I do want to acknowledge that we do have a golden cross that did occur between the 100, which is the 200 week, because this is a 2-week time frame, and that is the white line, and the red curve, which is the 400-week HMA. These are some pretty solid HMAs. Again, whole moving averages are more current than simple moving averages. This is not an SMA. We do have resistance, however, at the 50, so it's something to keep in mind. 50 times 2 being the 100. This is the 100-week HMA, and we can look on a lower time frame and kind of see how this is playing out in a little bit more detail. But this is a bullish sign. This is just something I want to point out. The fact that we have a golden cross here is a bullish sign. The last time we had a golden cross, we had a parabolic rally by Bitcoin. So the question is, do we see follow through, or does this kind of roll back over a little bit? That we don't know. We should be open-minded to either potential approach. You can see on the weekly that this is the 50, the 100, and the 200. You can see that while we are kind of hitting the 100 as resistance now, the 200-week whole moving average sits at right around 45K and is increasing. So this could be our final stop for the correction. I think that's quite likely that wherever this 200-week HMA lands, by the time that we do get that final flush out, I think that's where Bitcoin's going to most likely correct to. And if I had to guess, and again, I'm basing this off of rate cuts. If you've watched my previous videos, I'm talking a lot about rate cuts right now because I think that's going to be what's needed for Bitcoin to finally take that dump. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen between now and then. I think, we'll see some relief rallies, so don't take this as like exactly what's going to happen. But I think sometime out in September, maybe right here, we might see the correction end and then bounce. So I don't know exactly where that HMA is going to be at that time, because I imagine that this downward price action is going to catch up with you. You can see it's concave down right now, so it's probably going to start curling around. But I'm guessing that we'll have some bounces along the way. This is not straight down, and but I think our final destination may be here in this red zone. I don't think that this is the bottom of the correction. I could be wrong, but I just don't think so. I think we are going to head lower. Something else to keep in mind is that the Gaussian channel is narrow and concave up, which is generally a pretty bullish thing. So if we were to kind of take this out to maybe September, the top of the Gaussian channel could be somewhere around 50K. So again, I'm sort of anticipating a landing somewhere between 45 and 50K. That could line up with the Gaussian channel fairly well as we extend further out. We're in the 1-week time frame, just so everybody knows. So I pulled up a couple of indicators that are leaning slightly bearish. We've seen sell volume start to pick up. The sellers are in control within the past 3 weeks. Also on the ADX and DI, which is this indicator in the middle here, the white directional index trend strength has been coming down, which is causing a contraction in volatility. However, the red has crossed above the green, which is bearish when that happens. How long is this going to last for? We don't know. When was the last time this happened? Well, the last time we had a bearish cross was in March of 2022. Well, that's not true. We actually had a very slight one in August of 2023, only lasted for a month. So how long this bearish cross is going to last for is anyone's guess, or if it just fakes out and reverses, that could happen as well. But I think the odds are that it does continue, but that the drop really starts to slow down. Because what you see here is that the ADX is coming down, the average directional index. It's currently at a trend strength of about 30, so that's still strong. It's a strong enough trend, but it's starting to kind of weaken. So if any major drops are going to take place that are very dramatic, you would anticipate that they would likely probably come later when we're coming back up on the ADX and DI. Right now, seeing it kind of come down are really increasing the odds that whatever kind of drop we have may not be as dramatic as ones that we've seen in the past. If you go to the 2-week, on the other hand, we haven't even crossed yet. So we are kind of approaching a bearish cross on the ADX and DI. And on a 2-week, this trend strength is quite strong at 54. So that is something to kind of be mindful of. On the 2-week, buyers are kind of losing their grip. Buyers have been in control. Bulls have been in control. So it's a very different picture that's being painted on the 1 week, but perhaps the 1 week is kind of a leading indicator for what the 2-week might look like heading into the future. So looking at the summer, which I think is going to just be a very choppy time, as it kind of already has been. On the weekly bull bear power trend, we haven't looked at this chart in a while. We are seeing that the bulls are starting to lose their control. The signal line is crossing through the green. You no longer see these green histogram bars, meaning that the bulls are no longer in control on the weekly time frame. And you're, for the first time in a really long time, since 2023, seeing the emergence of some red on the underside. And so last time this happened in 2023, it lasted about 2 months, and I think that it could last 2 months this time as well, or somewhere around there. Maybe 3 months. You know, I don't think it's going to be super long, but then again, I don't really know, right? So I think rate cuts, like I said, are going to be initially bearish and cause a final drop for everything, all markets, and then that should be bullish afterwards. Could be a V-shaped recovery that happens because of the perception of more liquidity entering the market, and ultimately our market is a representation of the furthest end of the risk curve, where we have liquidity that ultimately drives market movements, especially in riskier assets like altcoins. And again, it's hard to feel super bullish when you see RSI and stochastic RSI looking like this. So I'm anticipating that we are going to need to visit these lower levels again, which we haven't visited in quite some time, and maybe spend a little bit of time down here. This is a gigantic head and shoulders pattern on RSI and stochastic RSI, so it really doesn't look great going forward. I mean, I want to think that maybe we can get a relief rally to around 60K. It looks like we tried to push to around 58K today, but got rejected. So this could turn bearish. I mean, July could be another red month for all I know. Maybe August ends up being a little bit green, you know. I do think we're going to see some relief. I don't think that the relief we got in the past couple of days is all the relief that we're going to see. But I think there's more red in the charts coming our way. I just don't see how this is going to turn around in a sustained way until we get down to some of these deeper levels, especially with stochastic RSI. Now, I normally look at the price momentum oscillator on the 2-week. You've seen me talk about that a lot if you've been following my channel for any time. I don't look at it too often on the weekly time frame, but I do want to look at it on the weekly. As the 2-week has started to turn red, you can see that the weekly has gotten pretty red, and it's down to some pretty low levels that we have not seen since August and September, and before that we really haven't seen since late 2022. So I know we are heading into a bearish phase of the market. We're already in a bearish phase of the market, and I think it is likely to continue for possibly a few more months, with some bounces along the way. And generally speaking, I don't expect altcoins to do very well during quarter 3 until after we get rate cuts. And then I think at that point, and only at that point, could we start to talk about being, bullish on altcoins. You can accumulate altcoins at this stage, understanding that you may be catching falling knives. I know a lot of people don't like to do that. So you could also just wait until the market sees some resolution before you DCA anything other than Bitcoin, if you're even just DCAing Bitcoin. So I think this price momentum oscillator very likely will go down a little bit more on the weekly, and I think it might reverse. for some kind of relief rally, maybe into August. We could see some more blood in July, certainly. Could see a little kink here, maybe that takes us to like a bullish week, but I think ultimately we're going to get rejected. I mean, if we can't even hold 58K, how are we going to hold 60K? So I think we make another stab at that 58K level or 60K level, probably fail, fall back down, and I think we're going to need to see some extreme fear in the market before things can really start to turn around. The average sentiment oscillator on the weekly has flipped red for the first time since August and September, and before that, the bear market. So we definitely need to pay attention here. We had a really nice period of green. We started to get that convergence of the red and the green, and now we have the red actually diverging away from the green, which is bearish. And so these phases do tend to last longer than a few weeks. So again, I anticipate we'll see some kind of bearish phase. Maybe it lets up in August. We see some crisscrossing before this turns green yet again further on in the cycle. The 2-week average sentiment oscillator is having some bearish convergence. The bulls are still in control. This is pretty much your bear market right here. I anticipate that this will not cross, but may come down to the levels that we're seeing in September. We could definitely revisit that level, or we could print a slightly higher low or a slightly lower low, but I think it will come back up again. It's really hard to see, but the MVRV Z-score is looking bearish at the moment. Whenever you have the yellow line beneath the blue line, that's bearish. Yellow above the blue is bullish. You can see our market cycle bottoms occur at maximum distance between these two lines, and our market cycle tops occur at maximum distance. So look at the MVRV Z-score. This is one of the reasons I'm fairly confident, with I'd say like 99% confident, that the market did not top in March. And what I mean by that is it did not have a significant maximum, it didn't have a significant cycle peak to where we're entering into a bear market. I think we're going to see this distance start to grow again in Q3, but then I think it'll turn around. And that's when we'll start to see the distance go in the other direction, where the yellow is more sustainably above the blue, kind of like what you're seeing here, but more dramatic. The pi cycle top indicator, these moving averages are running pretty much. You got the 350 by 2 and the 111. I always forget which one of these is which, but you've got the longer term moving average now above the shorter term moving average, but you can almost envision a golden cross of these happening sometimes toward the end of Q4, and that generally is, or maybe even way later than that. Honestly, this could run parallel for quite a while. So when they have this golden cross, that generally is going to give you some kind of significant cycle top. So I do think we're going to see another mania leg. I can't tell you when it's going to happen. These are running parallel to each other. It could take a while for this cross. I mean, this could come up very slowly, especially with all this downward price action, and maybe it doesn't cross until the middle of 2025. I think a major cycle top is coming next year, based on all the data that I have, but just seeing that the pi cycle top did not trigger on this top makes this seem like, kind of looking back in hindsight, that the 73K price value wasn't really all that significant after all. I think that'll only be obvious in hindsight like 6 months from now. The current risk level on Bitcoin is 38.63, and I need to clarify what that means. Over on the left, you have the risk levels going from 100 to 0, and this tells you what prices are theoretically possible right now. So if Bitcoin were to go into a bear market, let's say that this was a cycle top, which I would bet 99.9999% chance that it isn't. Of course, there's always that 0.001% chance that it is. Then we'd be likely to fall to a level around 30K, with 30K being a major cycle low on the weekly time frame. So this model is saying that somewhere around 30K is the lowest Bitcoin could go. Now this could drop. If Bitcoin were to just keep dropping, this value could drop to around 25K. So maybe 25K would be the lowest we would see, somewhere between 25 and 30K. In a bear market, major cycle bottom. I don't think that's coming though, so I'm going to disregard that. As far as like a major cycle top goes, we're looking at 165K. So if Bitcoin were to suddenly go parabolic in like a single day, the highest we could theoretically reach is around 164K. But if you kind of extrapolate that the bull market is not over, we're currently sitting in that like 30 to 40 range. And I do think we could come down to 30, and I don't mean 30K. Let me be clear. I mean a risk level of 30, which is around 49.7K. So that's, around in my risk zone, my red zone. I kind of see that 30 to 40K being, the 30 to 40 risk level being kind of a likely landing spot, is possibly as low as the high 20s before we say, okay, that's it, that's enough bearishness, let's go back up. And then I think we can start to see Bitcoin explode heading into the end of the year, and especially into 2025. If we clear 100K, we're at a risk level of 70, so that's getting pretty heated. We want to see this take, we want this consolidation. We want this to drop. We want to see Bitcoin just do a whole lot of nothing for a while, because that is going to, and that's even on the way up too, that's going to allow for the risk levels to have time to go higher. Okay, we don't want to see Bitcoin just keep going down. That's not what I'm saying, but the choppiness is good, right? The choppiness is really good. Like even if we were to go to another high, like around 100K, hit that 70 risk, and then just kind of cool off there and do a whole lot of nothing for a while, and altcoins run, that's going to be good for risk. We don't want to go straight up, because that's generally, okay, market's over, right? Because if you look at the past, anytime we've gotten really high, and we haven't always made it to the top, right, of the risk, but we've gotten pretty close into this upper band, something above 90 is generally telling you, here we even went over it, get out of the market. Right? So that's what it's telling you, get out, right? And you start to get up into this band, which right now would start just a little bit above 100K, like around 117K. You're looking at being kind of in a major market cycle top. So if we can kind of extend this out into 2025, like by the summer of 2025, we could hit levels conceivably close to 200K. And I think that's quite a likely outcome, actually. I think that if we could have a blow off top, and it'll all seem so obvious in hindsight that this was nothing more than a major bear trap. Now, one of my favorite indicators, the Trix bubble, is looking really bearish. It looked like we were about to have a bullish divergence here, but then we got a fake out down. All of our moving averages are stacked down. So, again, odds are more downsides coming. Can't exactly tell you when, but, seeing everything flip down like this is a sign that, reversal will probably happen at some point, but I think we may need to see some downward price action. So, as much as I would love to see us continue to try to fight the 60K region, I think that likely next week we may, I don't know that we'll see 4-5 red weeks in a row. That is fairly unusual, not unprecedented. It's, if you go back here to bear markets, it's not unusual at all, but to see 5 red weeks in a row is kind of a little bit much. So I think we could see a green week next week. Maybe this starts to kink its way up. Or, maybe that starts a reversal, right? And we could kind of carve out some kind of bottom, kind of like we did in September around these levels, and then head back up again and get, the September flush out. So I don't know. You can't really tell a whole lot from this here, except we're going down right now. And if this doesn't start to curve, then down is the most likely path. Bitcoin dominance on the weekly is in the end of its bull run. There's no sugarcoating it to you Bitcoin dominance fans, but back in December, we had an inflection point on the Gaussian channel, and we've now seen a widening, and it's concave down. So generally speaking, this is where you're going to expect a major drop to happen. So Bitcoin is going to find a bottom, if it hasn't already, at some point between now and likely the rate cuts, right? The first rate cut, which will be bearish, and I have to think that would be the top for Bitcoin dominance. So I think Bitcoin dominance doesn't really have much life left. I think we can get to September and still look kind of bullish, and then I think once rate cuts, I don't forget what the date is for the FOMC. I think we're going down to the end of the year. I don't know exactly where we'll land, but I've talked about this in previous videos, so you can look at my previous videos for that. But I think this is kind of what dominance is going to do. Could dominance, get up to 57% or so? Yeah, I think it could, but the window is kind of narrowing for that to happen. So, will we see a final breakout by dominance? Yeah, I think we could. I just don't know that it'll be as dramatic as maybe people would think. I pointed this out before, and I'll point it out again, but if you look at kind of the shape that dominance has been taking on, it looks like a logarithmic growth curve that's kind of starting to flatten out. So I think that it's running out of gas, it's running out of steam, and this is why one of many reasons, I don't want to do that. This is one of many reasons why I think, being heavy Bitcoin still makes sense right now. Again, this is nothing I talk about on this channel is financial advice or this video, so do your own research. But it's why I think being heavy Bitcoin does make a lot of sense right now. But that you should start to think about, maybe in your mind, maybe converting some of that Bitcoin to Ethereum and alts. Very gently right now, but as we get closer to rate cuts, that's kind of where I would get more aggressive, especially if it looks like the Federal Reserve is going to cut rates. And if you look at the CME Group predictions, they're predicting rate cuts in September. I mean, everybody kind of has their eyes on it. If this weren't a presidential election year, I would be kind of like sketchy on it, but I think the Fed's they're just going to have to do what they got to do. And unemployment came in at 4% again, so it hasn't gone up, it hasn't gone down. Nothing is really that dramatic in the economy right now in terms of changes from one month to another. Inflation probably will go down a little bit, if I had to guess. And so as long as that's heading in the right direction and inflation readings keep kind of coming in lower, then I think, the Fed can make that cut more confidently. But if inflation starts to go back up, then maybe we're looking at rate cuts in November. So that would prolong, that would likely prolong the death of Bitcoin dominance. And I think like it's very tricky because I've seen some theories online about the Mt. Gox and maybe now the FTX, but let's just talk about Mt. Gox repayments, and they're saying, well, there's so much money floating around with these repayments that it's probably going to kill dominance because people are going to cash out and buy altcoins. And it's like, well, you don't really know what's going to happen. I mean, look at what Germany did. They sold Bitcoin, then they bought the dip. I don't know what the heck they were doing. So people do some really strange things. What I can say is that dominance does not look strong anymore. It looks like it's weakening. Gaussian looks like it's just waiting to flip red any day now. I don't think it will flip red until, of course, we have that drop, which I do think very likely will come in September. I would be surprised if we don't get a rate cut in September. My base case is September. November would be kind of a little too late, I think, to do rate cuts, but let's just see what the Fed has up their sleeve. All right, so my concluding thoughts are that Bitcoin is likely to be very choppy between now and rate cuts. Rate cuts being most likely in September, if I had to guess, right? November is worst case scenario, but I'm really counting on September to bring our first rate cut about. And I think, we're just going to see a lot of chop, probably with a slightly bearish bias as we complete that bull flag that we talked about earlier. And that bull flag could widen out a little bit. This could become almost like a megaphone pattern. That's possible. I don't really know. But either way, I do expect that we will be choppy with a slightly bearish bias. Maybe we'll have one more kind of attempt at the top of the range, at the range highs. We could get to 67, 68K, maybe in August. But I think ultimately whatever high we get to will be killed by rate cuts, and that could bring us down potentially to 53, 52, 50, 49, 48, I don't know, somewhere around there. And I think at that point we'll have maximum fear in the market, and we're going to see some pretty huge buys. And so that's where I expect kind of to begin the next chapter of this bull market, which is we're out of the bear trap, and now it's time for altcoin season. So I think we'll see Bitcoin kind of reverse course and start to head up. I think initially Bitcoin dominance might remain a little bit strong right around the rate cuts and for some time after. So I don't want to tell you that altcoin season begins the day of rate cuts, but I think altcoin season will begin shortly after. It could be a month or two after. I don't know. I think Bitcoin needs to go up first. So when I talk about rate cuts being the death of dominance, I don't mean that it's going to dominance is going to die right away. But I think that, dominance may start to show a lot more weakness, and you'll see altcoins starting to make moves as Bitcoin goes up. So you might see dominance start to kind of look really weak, but it could still hold a little bit steady as Bitcoin climbs. Good days and bad days. And then I think once Bitcoin breaks 73K, which I think it will, and settles down somewhere, whether that's 90K or 100K, I don't know where, settles down, assuming it's not a major cycle top, or even if it is, I think you'll see Bitcoin dominance take a real nosedive at that point, and that's when the true altcoin season will begin. And I don't think we're that far away from it. I mean, you've made it this far into the year, and we're already in quarter 3 of 2024. So, if I told you that the major mania phase was going to kick off, at the end of quarter 3, early quarter 4, it's really not that far from now, right? So just a little bit of chop between now and then. This represents a really good accumulation time. If you're catching falling knives, I'm pretty sure things will reverse course. Just make sure whatever you're catching is strong against Bitcoin and Ethereum, or you could just wait for confirmation and pay for that confirmation, which is what most successful traders do. Regardless, you got to stick to your own principles and do what you feel is best. I think that this time will be remembered. Nothing is nothing more than a bear trap, and people will just kind of forget about it. You'll see crypto interest return in a big way. Right now, a lot of the social metrics are down near zero. You've seen it if you're in Telegram groups, YouTube channels, Reddit, etc. People are mostly tuned out of the market, and they always do this. They always tune out at the worst possible time, and they miss some really great deals. Don't be one of those people. Stick around, look at what's on the shopping list. It's hard to buy the dip. It's hard to buy things that are undervalued because you think, the dip will just keep dipping, and you may be right. It might just keep dipping. But just let's remember, we are in a bull market. This Gaussian channel, this chart looks extremely bullish on the weekly time frame. I would not fade the bull market right now. I would not get sucked into people saying the market cycle's over. This was a triple top. Let me tell you what triple tops, they're like unicorns. They don't really exist. What usually happens is a triple top turns into a giant bull flag. And I think that is exactly what's going to happen. And I think we'll see Bitcoin at a new all-time high by the end of the year. And I would be absolutely shocked if that did not happen. So thank you for joining me in the crypto simulation. I am the Gaussian Snake, and I love crypto and I love talking about it. If you like videos like this, please like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. And if you like talking about crypto every single day, please join my free Telegram group, the Snake Pit, for daily market updates, chart analysis, and so much more. My channel is completely free. I don't charge for anything like other crypto people do, and people say that I provide really, really good analysis. So yeah, get into our free Telegram group. There's 250 people there. You could be the 251st. Link is in the video description below. I hope you all have a great rest of your weekend and stay cool. It's been like over 110 degrees here where I live in the West Coast. So yeah. All right. We will see you next time. Bye.